Yeah, let's take some calls. I'm excited to talk to Tim in Texas. Tim in Texas, welcome to the show. How can we help you tonight?
How y'all doing? Yeah, so I recently had someone who was very close to me, who I love like a member of my own family, come out to me and completely, shocked me, saying that, over the past year they've come to realize they are transgender. And, I'm in a state of shock because this is, one of the last people I would ever expect, just not something I would have expected. But, I want to be, open and accepting to this person. And so they recommended one book to me. Are you familiar with C.N. Lester? They wrote a book called Trans Like Me. I'm just trying to kind of understand these issues a little better because, while I've been open and accepting to trans people, I really don't know any. I've come to realize, and it might just be like baggage from my religious upbringing that I haven't really dug in on the issues. I've just been like, okay, I'm cool with that. So, what do you guys recommend?
Yeah, well, that's a really good question, and I love that you're calling in, Tim. Some of my favorite calls on the show are from people who have somebody in their life come out or challenge them in some way in a preconception that they might have had, and are asking for advice. So thank you, first of all, for calling in. I can recommend you books all day, and I have no doubt that Christy will recommend you at least one. But my instinct here, while I always am all about, yes, learn the issues, understand how to be a good ally, understand what you're voting for and the background of people who are running for office and their approach to trans issues, that's all very important. That can take a seat for a minute, though, I think. Right now, your friend, this person who came out to you, is probably very nervous. And that has nothing to do with how you dealt with the situation. It's an internal thing where they are thinking, did I mess this up? Or is Tim going to look at me differently? Do I need to perform for Tim? What if Tim messes up and uses a different name for me, or maybe the wrong pronouns? And how do I approach that? And will that hurt Tim? So they're in their own head right now. And what you can do for them is just be there and be willing to see them as they are and continue to treat them as somebody that you love. That by itself will allow them to continue to open up to you and talk to you about their experience. And that is going to give you a wonderful insight, not into all trans people, right? Because no one is a monolith, but into the experiences of this particular person. If you want to get onto the internet, I recommend following trans YouTubers specifically. A lot of them talk very openly and plainly and without any kind of aggression about their transition and about how people see them and about trans issues. And it was very helpful for me while I was coming out to kind of have those other people on my screen in my ear kind of telling me, oh, this is the language to use. Oh, this is what this means, right? It's a lot less scary when you can look at other people and see them as people, kind of like what Justin was saying, right? It's not from a place of, I'm going to be defensive, but rather from a place of curiosity. So maybe just make sure that you're asking the right questions and telling your friend that they still matter to you, because I guarantee you that's top of mind for them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay.
I like the I like the humanity part of it. That's where my thought went to immediately was just the shared humanity, and no matter what that looks like person to person, we all have that in shared. And like that's, if you start from there, I think empathy is probably easier to access, and curiosity and whatnot.
And just recognizing that coming out is an inherently scary thing, and that this is likely a pretty difficult time. So, being a little extra supportive the way V described, I think is really valuable.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. For me, it's just been, thinking about it. And after the initial shock wore off, I just kind of realized, oh, this person still has all the same interests that we share. We're going to probably hang out together the same way. And so did Christy have a book to recommend? Because I just started the one that person recommended. So I'm always looking for more. And not just not just like the stories and the rhetoric, but also like the actual science and evidence behind gender. That's something that I really want to dig into, because I'm very scientifically minded, and it took me to read a lot about, for example, when I came out of religion, it took me to read a lot of evolutionary biology to get all the young Earth creationism out of my head. So I'm just trying to
I feel that struggle.
Get over hurdles of that.
This summer was like the first time that I actually felt like I had any real grasp on evolution, because I definitely made it all the way through school without anybody being particularly concerned about making sure I understood it. I'm actually going to resist the urge to point you towards a particular book, because I do have a collection of resources and some different scientific studies that I've put together and shared on the show before. And I can drop that in the show notes of this episode as well. That'll kind of walk you through some of the science, what we know and what we don't know, in identifying and recognizing how transgender identities exist in the Bible, in the body, how they exist in the body and how they exist under the microscope. But more important than any of that, I think, is about kind of putting the academia aside and being a person with this friend, being a little bit more comfortable and kind of emphasizing, like we keep saying, the humanity of this conversation. Because regardless of what is going on inside their body, regardless of what their hormones or their nervous system happens to look like, this is a human being who's telling you about themselves. And I think that is what you need to kind of focus in on. And the best way to ease through some of this discomfort for you might be a little bit of academic study. And I don't want to stand in the way of that. Learning's always a good thing. Educate yourself is a great practice. But I think you're going to want to focus on just becoming a little bit more comfortable being around trans voices, being around trans folks. And one great way to do that is through film and podcasts, through YouTube. I mean, all these different media formats that just give you an opportunity, whether it's stand-up comedy or a serious drama. I mean, not every experience of a trans person or experience of trans art needs to be about that trans identity. So just watching something that's a little bit more lighthearted and funny, maybe jumping into something that's politically minded or whatever else scratches your itch, just to be kind of exposed to these types of folks and their particular voice, I think is going to be a much more effective direction for you.
Okay. Yeah, well, I appreciate all that insight. Can I bring up one more thing real quick? And it might not be an easy question to answer, but I do just have that disconnect in my head from, I don't know if it's, like I said, the religious baggage, but I struggle to think of trans women as women. When you see a person, you gender them in your head with a knee-jerk reaction, and you wonder where they're coming, where they came from, and all that. So it's difficult for me to, trans and women are two separate words. They're two separate things. I know that, but maybe I just need to keep on working at it.
Yeah, I think that Christy's instinct is good here for a couple reasons. First, I do want to address your question, though, first, and it kind of ties into why I like Christy's answer. If you have probably interacted with trans women that you didn't know were trans, If you have any amount of exposure to large groups of people, that has probably happened and you just didn't know it. So when people say, I can't see trans women as women or something along those lines, I'm not attracted to trans people, the response that I usually ask is, well, what about that is universal, right? There are trans women who pass and there are trans women who don't. And if you're going to start listing bodily attributes like, oh, well, what about the way the face is shaped, or, whatever you're going to like point to, I can point to a dozen cis women who share that same trait. So then it becomes less about trans women and more about maybe a particular trait, and then we can unpack that. But I would resist the urge to box everybody into the category of everybody is going to look in a certain way or everybody's going to present in a certain way. And I think that is why I love Christy's response, because before you get into the academia, it seems kind of like there's the instinct to be up here and look and study, when we want to make sure that we're looking at the other person first, right? All that academia is important and is there, and Christy will link stuff in the description. But before we can dig into the biology, I think it's important that we understand that we're talking about other humans, not just on an intellectual level, but really deeply and emotionally. Like, we have these emotional connections and these neurological connections to other people. And I think that that needs to come first if the research is then going to be approached in the correct way, which is, with empathy. So I love that Christy responded in that way. Also, one last thing before we let you go, Tim, take it as a compliment that your friend came out to you, because that means that they feel safe around you. That means that you are important enough to them that they're that they want to be their true self around you, and they don't want to lie, they don't want to hide, they want to be themselves around you, and that's important to them. So the fact that they came out to you at all is huge and is an honor. So good for you for being the kind of friend that somebody could come out to.
Okay. All right. Well, I'll take all of that and run with it, and gonna keep on reading and keep on researching. Thanks for taking my call.
Thank you, Tim. Have a good rest of your night.